Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. A memorandum of understanding signed with the intent of bringing together NEDCO and the YTEP program. Trinidad and Tobago is asked to share in the vision of a forward society. And Tobago Development Minister says Tobago needs to be on par with the rest of the world. Thank you for joining us. The Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training and the Ministry of Labour have come together to sign an MOU targeted at bringing together NEDCO and the YTEP program. This is said to signify the move to push the entrepreneurial spirit among citizens.
Has been signed between the Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training and the Ministry of Labour. The signing signifies the collaboration between the two for the programs YTEP and NEDCO. Labour Minister Aaron MacLeod says the joining of forces will empower students with the right skills and expertise needed for success at an entrepreneurship level.
I have been advised that this strategic working relationship between NEDCO and YTEP will be for a period of 3 years from the date of signing. It is important to note that these efforts will be undertaken to promote institutional efficiency without compromising accountability and transparency. This arrangement between NEDCO and YTEP is meant to guide participants step by step on their journey to self-empowerment. Collaboratively, NEDCO and YTEP will contribute to the advancement of the MSE sector by assisting in the development of young entrepreneurs. Through YTEP's Adopt a Community approach, a needs assessment analysis will be conducted to support NEDCO in the development of initiatives that are specific to the needs of communities and sectors. Also, based on specified criteria determined by NEDCO, loan financing will be provided to qualifying graduates of YTEP.
According to Tertiary Education Minister Fazal Karam, such a joint venture seeks to create a perpetual cycle of success through these businesses. He says creating self-employed citizens today will assist in creating the big businesses of tomorrow.
It is always good for us to say that we can train so many persons, but really, what is the impact of that training? How do we know where this resolves itself in the national community? I've always said, and I continue to say, that those who do not create jobs will soon be out of jobs. When you look at the Ansa Macals of today, Dr. Sabga, the Dinal Massis of today, Mr. Knox, the Southern Sales of today, Mr. Naz Ahmad, the SM Jalils of today, the Dr. Ali Mohammed, the Solo Beverages of today, going back to Joseph Charles and the Charles family, the Associated Brands of today, Mr. Atta Lockjack. And you read any of the textbook of economics, going back to the first one we may have looked at in terms of a textbook of economics by J.L. Hansen, they tell you that the firm of today was the individual of yesterday, and the firm of today will be the conglomerate of tomorrow.
Chairman of the YTEP program, Chandar Gupta Supasad, hailed the initiative as one signifying the continued growth of the program even after 25 years of existence and empowering lives in Trinidad and Tobago.
This MOU provides a platform for entrepreneurship for our graduates by removing the challenges of raising startup capital. Ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed quite a significant milestone for us at YTEP. This agreement today signals the laying of a foundation for the continued success of our YTEP graduates.
The MOU provides an additional avenue for responding to labour market demands and a better quality of life for participants. Further, the MOU is expected to propel YTEP graduates towards entrepreneurship through direct provision of startup capital for businesses. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
The winds of change are blowing at the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development, while the country is asked to share in the vision of a forward society.
Citizens are being urged to change their thinking so that Trinidad and Tobago can achieve sustainable development. The call comes from Minister of Planning and Sustainable Development, Dr. the Honorable Bohindranath Tiwari. While he expressed the need for the country as a whole to put all hands on deck, the Honorable Minister praised Trinidad and Tobago for the significant thrusts that have been made thus far.
The world is moving away now, after 2015, from Millennium Development Goals that it identified, and we will have achieved most of those by 2015. And they are now moving into Sustainable Development Goals and Indicators. And we are ahead of the world, Trinidad and Tobago, in terms of thinking about it. We did a Working for Sustainable Development strategy for Trinidad and Tobago, which we presented at Rio, +20. We identified 10 of the major sustainable development challenges for this country. And we looked at that in the context of islands and in the context of developing countries as well, and in the context of global benchmarks. And we are also committed to making the country competitive and creating a society that is driven by innovation, in which the creativity of the people make the difference.
However, the Honourable Minister is cautioning citizens against resting on their laurels and says future development in this country can take either of two roads.
Make change happen fast, or we can make change happen slow. It depends on us. As far as I could see, Trinidad and Tobago only likes change to happen slow. But the world is going ahead, because not only is it a competitive world and an innovative world that is driving itself to sustainable development principles, it is also a knowledge world. And what is happening in science and technology is taking the world far, far away, far, far ahead. And the institutions and the infrastructure of most countries in the world, including our own, cannot respond fast enough to cope with the changes that are taking place in the world. So for any society to have the thinking that change has to be slow, that is a built-in liability in the development paradigm. So we need to understand that there are some things that you need to cogitate on a little more, but there are some things you need to come to decisions and proceed, and that you can't get the perfect thing every time, but you can make things perfect.
Dr. Tiwari expressed his faith in the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development in meeting the needs of citizens and treating with the changes that the world is undergoing. He pointed out the work of the Town and Country Division of his ministry, in particular, that has stepped up its operations as it goes through a transformation. The Honourable Minister says the output from the division over the last 6 months has been efficient, effective and responsive to the customer. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
When we come back, a lot of fun at the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development Annual Family Fun Day. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Residents of Mayaro came out to the 14th National Consultation on the Constitution and made their contributions to the document. Some of the issues raised looked at the inclusion of stringent building codes to stipulated periods for the address of court matters.
The 14th session of the National Consultation rolled into the eastern town of Mayaro this weekend. While the turnout was not high in number as compared to sessions previously held, contributions from the public saw a number of interesting concerns raised. Residents of Mayaro took the opportunity to make their contributions as to what they would like seen addressed in the new governing legislature over Trinidad and Tobago, the new national constitution. One issue raised during the session was the topic of selecting qualified candidates ahead of elections. Citizen and vocalist on a number of public issues, Donald Beaumont, says ensuring a fixed election date together with familiarizing candidates but parliamentary procedures was key.
Fixed dates, yes. I want fixed dates. And I am looking at June. And why I'm looking at June? So from January, February, and March, every single person who goes before the electorate has to have 3 months of training. Training in parliamentary procedure, training in ministerial duties, training in X, Y, and Z. So when we choose them, we have to say, all you know what you're doing, first time all you're there. You train for 3 months, you get a certificate, and you face the electorate.
Another resident said there was need for the Constitution to set a specific time frame for the resolution of court matters. She added there was also need for laws to stipulate how police officers ought to treat victims reporting sensitive criminal matters.
We need to have some reform to set time frames for certain matters. I know the judiciary is under a lot of pressure, but as time goes, what is going to happen? Me being a victim, I am suffering. And it was a wrong that was done to me. So I shouldn't have to be made to wait so long to get my issue addressed. I think that when, in cases like rape or incest, especially for women and for children, the police and they need to display a little more empathy and be a little more responsible in the derelict of their duties. So far, it's unbalanced, it is biased, and when a victim goes into the police station, the victim is treated as a criminal. We need to have trained professionals. If male police officers cannot handle the issue, we need to have female officers who can at least address someone in that situation.
The regulation of building laws was also addressed during the Miaro session, where one citizen called on more stringent laws to be established on approvals for construction.
It should be mandatory that whether you have money or don't have money, you cannot build without all the relevant approval. Developments, land developers, millionaires go and develop land. Put down there, they develop a land area, and like right here in Leisureville, developer came, put down the thing, put down solar plant, and establish a community. And everybody buy the homes, and then they disappear. After that, sewer gone, sewer non-functional, feces running on the road, and there should be more stringent laws in place to deal with all of these things on the land. Therefore, just can't come and put on something and then disappear.
In the end, Commissioner Justice Sebastian Vento commended the residents for their contributions and noted the value and impact it will have in shaping the new legislature.
It is a clear indication that you are interested in reshaping or shaping your republic, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. While it is true, one particular comment I heard that the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago has done us well over the years. That is very true. But as a society, we're not static. The society is very dynamic, changes every day, and we must change the laws to keep up with the pace of change that we experience in our society. So this is why we have come to you, for you to tell us exactly in what way we'd want to change our Constitution in shaping the future.
The next consultation is carded to take place in Point Fortin and will be held at the Point Fortin East Secondary School. Kimberly Ramkalawan, News 4.
In other news, the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development held its annual Family Fun Day. The event took place over the weekend, and some participants remembered what it was like to have fun in the good old days.
When last did you play a good game of musical chairs, spin a hula hoop, or even roll a roller? Well, that's what the employees at the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development did this weekend as the ministry held its Family Fun Day themed Kicking It Old School. The employees were joined by children from the St. Dominic's and St. Mary's Children's Home. Minister of Gender, Youth and Child Development, Senator the Honorable Marlene Coudray, in her address says The Family Day serves to bring together some of the stakeholders in the ministry's work who all serve a common cause.
This is an effort to bring your staff, their families, and everyone together who work for the same cause, for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The gender issues, men and women, the youth, and the children. This is an important event on the calendar of the ministry in order that we would meet each other outside of the work environment. And I'm sure a lot of discussions are taking place, as I have been, in terms of what we can do to better the service support of the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development.
The Family Day featured other fun games such as sack races, balloon races, potato races, wheelbarrow races, and much more. In her address, Minister Kudre assures the public that the event will return next year. Some employees will be wishing, however, that one old school aspect is introduced next year: chivalry. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
Sport is up right after the break. Stay with us. Keyshawn Walcott's 84.39-meter javelin throw was a highlight of the Twilight Games at the Hazley Crawford Stadium last Friday. The effort was his first competitive outing since the London 2012 Olympics, and that's a good sign for the future as he was just centimeters off his Olympic gold medal throw. But Walcott was not the only performance on the day. Wayne Cunningham has the highlights from the elite Twilight Games.
Track events normally grab the spotlight at athletic meets, but with Keyshawn Walcott's success at the London 2012 Olympics, the field athletes were in focus. The big men of the shot put were up first at the Twilight Games. Akeem Stewart of Tobago Falcons took that event with a throw of 18.68 meters. Ezekiel Romeo of Rebirth captured second, and the University of the West Indies, Keyshawn Phillips, third. In the women's event, Cuban Yanni Uves Lopez threw a distance of 17.40 meters, which was only good for second place. She was bettered by TNT's Cleopatra Borrells, 17.75, with another local, Portia's Warren of Toko Track and Field, taking third. Moving to the track, the women's 800 meter was easily won by Ishan Francis of Burnley, with Elia Nero of Neon Trackers in second, and Zenith's Renice Joseph in third. Mark London of Zenith is the Carifta champion, and he showed his class in the men's 800 by holding off a pair of Defence Force athletes in Clifford Sylvester and George Smith. One of the best races on the evening came in the women's 400 meters, as Neon Trackers Dominique Williams pipped Jamaican Stacey Ann Smith and Dana Messiah of Concord. Then there was Marshall Cedeno in the men's 400 meters. The Simplex quarter miler clocked 45.99 to defeat Marcus Boyd of the USA, with Jareem Richards of Abilene in third. .56 seconds was the time of Ayodele Taff of Abilene to take the men's 100 meters. He was followed to the line by Moriba Moraine of Simplex in 10.59 and John Mark Constantine in 10.67. The women's 100 was won by Olympian Michelle Lee Ahi in impressive fashion with a time of 11.37. To lead the USA's Mona Lee in second, and Fling Uwushu Agayapong in third. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
When we come back, Tobago takes the spotlight. Stay with us. Minister of Tobago Development, the Honorable Delmon Baker, says the tools that are being used in Tobago are outdated, and he believes the island must be on par with the rest of the world in terms of utilizing effective ICT solutions.
The Ministry of Tobago Development is staying true to its commitment to meet with the Tobago Division of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce once a month to discuss matters relating to the sister isle. At the latest discussions, the areas that were covered included the human resource development of the island and its infrastructural needs. Chairman of the Tobago chapter, Diane Haddad, noted the specific areas that require attention in terms of education on the island.
We need to recognize that there is an education problem in terms of the two fundamental basics, maths and English. I will go as far as to say arithmetic and English. And therefore, we know that the world is really a mathematical place. Unless we are able to start to deal with that, we're really not going very far. There are no resumes that come on our desks that has maths and English as a pass. And therefore, we have a general issue on the island in terms of the human capital development.
Minister of Tobago Development, Dr. the Honorable Delmon Baker, says the tools that are being used in Tobago are outdated, and he believes the island must be on par with the rest of the world in terms of utilizing effective ICT solutions. He did, however, recognize the government's attempt at resolving this situation by providing laptops to secondary school students.
What we noted is that in many of the areas in Tobago, particularly on the eastern end of the island, there are a number of spots that do not even receive internet capacity or internet capabilities. So those laptops may only be functioning while the students are at school, and when they get home, they simply cannot connect to the internet. And that was the same problem that we noted with even cable television. So some of our students are not getting either the radio signal or the television signal. So the education through those means is simply not being gotten by the access is not being gotten by our young, our students, our young people, to the level to which we think in an ICT-ready society we should be getting.
The Honorable Minister also spoke of the other issues that were raised that focused on the airport and seaport.
We have met with the Minister of Transport, the Minister of Tourism, in discussing the upgrade of the A&R Robinson International Airport. I am to advise, and I advise the Chamber, that the temporary retrofitting, if you could say that, of the building is occurring at this point in time, and that we will again lobby Cabinet for the full build-out of the new airport that, interestingly enough, the current president of the Tobago chapter worked on while she was part of the board of the Airports Authority. In addition to that, she also raised concerns with the seaport in Tobago in having perhaps separate facilities for cruise docking to occur in Tobago, not to have the same space be used for the cruise ship docking as with the regular passengers and with the offloading of the cargo in the same space.
Minister Baker took the opportunity to dispel claims that the back pay for workers in Tobago was under the purview of his ministry.
The Assembly has the power to pay not just the 5% which is currently allocated for the Assembly to pay the back pay, but it also has the power to lobby the Ministry of Finance directly to ensure that they can meet the commitments of its workers. In that regard, I am giving the Chief Secretary the full support of the Ministry of Tobago Development to ensure that all workers in Tobago have paid their back pay in the shortest possible time.
When questioned about the position of the Tobago chapter between the Ministry of Tobago Development and the Tobago House of Assembly, Ms. Haddad had this to say.
We at the Chamber keep focused on what the mission and the goal is. It's not about politics, it's about the development of the people on the island. It's about private sector development and successes. particularly with me at the helm, we won't be in the middle of any political arena. It's about development, growth, and success. We are not interested in the rest.
The ministry and the Tobago chapter have committed to the strengthening of ties in the interest of Tobago's development and receiving the necessary resources it requires. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Thank you so much for joining us.